Buckle up for this story. UNLV QB Matthew Sluka is now transferring, most likely. The Rebels are off to a 3-0 start, and Sluka is a big reason why. Sluka came to Vegas as a transfer from Holy Cross, but now he says there were some promises made that were not kept, and he wants out. Here is what he had to say about this situation on social media, saying, "I have decided to utilize my redshirt year and will not be playing in any additional games this season. I committed to UNLV based on certain representations that were made to me, which were not upheld after I enrolled. Despite discussions, it became clear that these commitments would not be fulfilled in the future. I wish my teammates the best of luck this season and hope for the continued success of the program." Let's try to make sense of all of this, and for that we welcome in our college football insider Dennis Dodd and 24/7's Chris Hummer. And Dennis, I'll start with you here. Just your initial reaction to this story, a team that is 3-0, their starting QB saying, "I'm done."
Well, whether he got paid or not, you have reports now, Zach, emerging that he may not have been paid what he was promised. This was bound to happen. You know, how soon do we have players opting out or holding out in the middle of the season because they didn't get paid what they thought they were going to get paid? UNLV is in a situation where it can't pay as much as other schools anyway. I talked to Barry Odom this morning, at least via text, and I said, "What happened?" And he said, I'm quoting right now, I said, he thought he had a market value higher than he was making here. But what you've got is, on the lower end, group of 5 quarterbacks are making about $116,000. At the top end, in Power 4, it's about $819,000, according to NIL Marketplace Open Doors. But the top quarterbacks, like Cam Ward, are making over $1 million. UNLV can't even swim in those $100,000 waters right now. So whether he got paid or not, this was bound to happen in the middle of a season, maybe the best season ever at UNLV, where they're ranked for the first time in the running for the college football playoff and trying to decide if they're going to get to the Pac-12.
Yeah, I understand maybe wanting to get what you're owed, and maybe if you feel like you have not given what you were promised, that's why you're unhappy. So from the football side of things, Chris, you see Sluka, who I guess you would have to say plans to transfer and go somewhere else. What does his process maybe look like right now as he decides to take that red shirt smack dab in the middle of the year?
Well, I know this is drawing national headlines, and for good reason, but a player choosing to sit out midseason is not that unusual in college football. We've actually seen a couple examples this year already, including a cornerback at Notre Dame who was third in their rotation. He chose to redshirt after 4 games to protect his eligibility. I think famously we remember De'Aaron King doing this at Houston, Kelly Bryant doing it at Clemson. So this is something that's happened before, where a player wants to protect his final year of eligibility and go in the portal. We've just never seen it on a team that's having so much success like UNLV, and we've never seen it revolve around an NIL deal. And I just think this kind of says a lot about the status of the sport. Sluka is now likely going to enter the transfer portal. He hasn't stated that yet. I don't believe he's entered officially either. But he was in the portal 9 months ago, and it seems very likely he's going to be in there again, searching for that kind of final payday of his career. He's probably not an NFL quarterback, and this is likely his last opportunity to make money playing college football, and he seems to be wanting to take advantage of that. And talking to people around the country, like, not everybody blames him.
Yeah, going to chase the bag, I think that all of us out there can really understand, hey, if I can get paid, let me get paid while I can. But Dennis, while this, of course, is not uncharted waters for us from the college football landscape, what do you think this might say for where we stand with college football right now, with a team that is one of the better group of 5 teams that would have a chance to play in the college football playoff? Now you have your starter, your QB, decide to leave. What's that mean for college football moving forward, of maybe with NIL and money, how this might happen again?
Zach, clearly we need collective bargaining. This thing is now spiraling so out of control that the ADs I talk to that are even against collective bargaining or an employment model are resigned to saying, yeah, we need it. We need some certainty, because this is just out of control. I did a story this week with Danny White, who, you recall, the AD at Tennessee last week said he was going to raise ticket prices 10% and give that surplus to players. Just flat out pay for play, give it to them. The NCAA can't do anything. Privately, these ADs will be, are looking at that saying, we want to do the same thing, but we also want some cost certainty. You know what gives you cost certainty? Collective bargaining. It doesn't have to be a union, doesn't even have to be employment necessarily. But if you can get with a central unit like the players and bargain, I don't know, practice times, travel, benefits, stuff like that, and then you get to stuff like this eventually. Maybe not right away, but this is clearly on the plate of the NCAA, Zach. 3 years ago, when they instituted NIL, they had basically ignored the work of a working group to put guardrails around NIL that included such accomplished persons as Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby, Gene Smith, the old AD at Ohio State, and they're still bitter about it today, that they went to the least common resistance, some 4 guidelines, and that spurred the creation of these collectives, which we have right now. So it's not going to get any better. Like I said before, how soon till a player who's on a team holds out? Maybe that's under the guise of this guy's injured this week. They hold out for more money. That's coming, I promise you.
I mean, honestly, Dennis, we've already seen examples of players holding out behind the scenes in college football. So
that's what I meant.
I agree. Like, this is just the reality of the sport. I had an agent tell me this morning that represents a lot of players. Like, this is a trend. It's going to happen. I think it's just where we are. I do agree some form of clarity is needed via collective bargaining. But this is also just a really unstructured world in terms of contracts. This is far from the first situation I've heard a player has promised something in NIL and doesn't receive it. It doesn't get reported on a lot. Often players are hesitant to speak out about these situations, but I know of a lot of players who have been told they were going to get something and didn't get close to that number. And it happens, frankly, a lot at smaller schools. Like, these schools are struggling to compete in the NIL world, and they often package things like cost of attendance stipends as NIL. And I don't think players realize that's the case. It happens at bigger schools too, where you see like room and board being like pushed into the NIL package, when in reality that's something all athletes on campus receive. So this is just the world we live in with very little structure. And until it's regulated, we're going to continue to see situations like this.
Yeah, Dennis, it seems like that this maybe could have happened with anyone out there, and this is just the one that is truly making all the news and all the noise. Does it matter to you at all what Sluka's skill level is in this situation, or is this a, hey, he's the one that's making all the noise, and now that's why we're here right now?
Well, look, this Zach, this wouldn't have happened at Michigan. So to say that it could have happened anywhere is not. Sluka is a Holy Cross transfer who can dance better than Michael Jackson as a runner. He's really, really good. He can't throw. He can't throw well. He's completed 21 passes in 4 games. He's only played 10 quarters this season, and now he's going to take himself to market. But God bless him. I don't even think that's the discussion. The discussion is, this looks more like the Jaden Rashada thing than anything else. Jaden Rashada, Florida was promised $13 million. And when the time came for the first check, which I'm told was like $500,000, the people that did the contract at Florida said, we don't have it. And so that's a lot like this. And best of luck to Matthew Sluka. He's a great, great runner. They've already beaten Kansas. Again, I said they're in the running for the college football playoff spot. But yeah, this is a bad look for everybody all around.
I think in some ways you could argue, like, good on Matthew Sluka for stepping up in this situation. Like, these situations happen a lot, and it's really easy for the team that has the power in these situations to just like step up and say, you can't leave your team. Like, we'll take care of you eventually. But like, this is somebody who, like, I would imagine in a really difficult decision, stepped forward and wanted what he was promised and wanted to take advantage of his earning years. And that's what seems to be occurring. And you can't fault a player for that. I think it speaks to the system as a whole and what needs to be fixed. But in terms of like the actual athlete, like, I think his talent level is pretty irrelevant, because I think any of us in a line of work, and this is assuming this is what happened, if you're promised something, you don't get it, you're going to be upset, and he's doing something about it. So it's hard to fault him in that situation if that is what occurred. But for what it's worth, like, I do know of at least one Power 4 school that would have taken Matthew Sluka had things broken a little differently. You have to use him in a specialized way. You obviously have to create a custom offense around him. I think that's what UNLV's done with Brennan Marion there as the offensive coordinator. But he is somebody that had a lot of interest in the transfer portal from a lot of bigger schools the first time around. I don't think he's going to be starting at a place like Alabama next year, certainly, but he will have value if he does choose to enter the portal.
Yeah, and now UNLV left to pick up the pieces, still with games to play and still with a lot left out in front of them as they hope to make something shake and make it out the way to the playoffs. But Sluka, we know, will not be a part of that. Chris Hummer, Dennis Dodd, thank you so much for joining on this conversation where there will be a lot more to come, including over at 24/7 Sports. They're working on a long piece right here detailing the Sluka situation. So make sure you get tapped in with them. Also for that wall-to-wall team coverage and recruiting updates and transfer portal, which is always on and popping. Check them out.